I was in the middle of my speech and I completely lost my way. Has that ever happened to you? Because it happened to me lots of times. As somebody who struggles with brain fog, and I'm a bit of an introvert and shy, this was terrifying, to lose my place in the middle of my speech. And it happens to pretty much everybody at some point if you're getting on stage and speaking to others. And what I want to do in this video is help you to learn how to overcome these feelings of losing your way or blanking when you're in the middle of your speech, and what you can do to try to minimize or prevent that from happening. Now you might wonder, why on earth does this happen to me? I wonder why it happens to me. You might think, well, I've done my preparation, I've gone through it, I've researched, I've prepared a speech. Why did I blank in the middle? Well, one of the most likely reasons is nerves. Maybe anxiety, speech anxiety. 75% of the world suffer with speech anxiety, so most likely you have too. That's all right. We understand. We're human after all. And sometimes we get knocked off our game by things that we just don't see coming. Sometimes over-preparing can cause us to lose our way during our speech. And if we've memorized our speech rather than just got familiar with it, that might be something which causes us to blank. You wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think that memorizing a speech would cause you to blank out, but it can. It can happen. Because if you have got it memorized word for word and then you lose what comes next, you can't remember what the next word is, you are going to lose your way. In fact, this happened to me once when I was on stage. This was back when I was playing music. I was with a band, we were on stage, and I was singing, which is not something I enjoy doing, and I was about to sing the opening lines to the song we were about to play. The guitar was playing, and I couldn't remember the opening line. You know, I'd practiced it 100 times before getting on that stage. I knew it front and back in practice, but standing on the stage in front of a crowd, I had to walk over to my mate who was starting the riff, and luckily he could keep going, playing over and over, and ask him, how does this song go again? And he reminded me, and oh yeah, I remember. It happens, even if you're well rehearsed. Okay, so we need to understand it's normal. It's normal to blank and completely forget what you were going to say. Now, I want to give you some really useful tips and strategies that you can use to try to prevent this from happening, or what to do when it does happen. Before I do, I want to give you a resource that you can use to help in this area, but just in general with your speeches as well. I've created a step-by-step guide to outlining and writing a speech, which includes a template that you can swipe and use to start your next speech. If you've ever been sitting there at the beginning of a speech writing process and been looking at the cursor blinking away at you and not knowing where to start, well, this resource is what you need. It has a template to get you started so you can get off of the blocks and jump in to your next speech writing session. Just go to www.the-speakersacademy.com/outlining or go to the description below to grab your personal copy to keep forever. It's yours, completely free. I want you to have that to be able to craft excellent outlines to basically help with this problem. So how can we prevent this from happening? Well, here's a couple of tips. First of all, you need to practice out loud. Not just reading your notes in your head, but actually doing it as if you're going to give your speech. Find a quiet place, get yourself set up, maybe in front of a mirror, maybe with your camera on your phone recording you, so that you can see and hear and look at how you give your speech. Practicing is just getting good. You know, when you think about it, if you were an athlete, an elite athlete, you would go through practice sessions, basically going through the motions, preparing yourself to do the thing, and not just do it, to do it well, to do it at the best level you can. So there's nothing wrong with practicing. It feels a bit silly, especially at first, setting yourself up in your bedroom with your notes and presenting to thin air. But this is where we get good. So make sure you practice out loud. Practice out loud in different settings. Sit in the car and practice. As people walk by, you will feel a little bit silly. But that mimics the nerves that you feel when you give that speech out loud. You're trying to build that mind to mouth muscle memory. And so if you can do that again and again, you'll get better. Okay, what else? If you think about actors, they do something called table reads. So before they'll go and perform the scene, they will sit around a table and practice it. So you can practice it in front of others, or like we said, practice it in front of your phone and send it to others. You can have a network of people you trust, your family, your friends, mentors. Get them to listen. I remember when I was going to give one of my first big speeches, one of my mentors sat in front of me and I gave my speech to them. There's nothing worse for an introvert than speaking to one person as if they're an audience. It's terrifying. I prefer to speak to 100 people. But that makes such a difference because it makes you nervous. If you're going to slip up, you're going to slip up when you feel nervous. And you're doing that in practice. Again, a really good way to improve your self-confidence, and you'll find little things which might trip you up as you're giving and practicing that speech. Okay, next, positive self-talk. If you're introverted and shy, or you have a negative self-image of yourself, anything like that, you're going to tell yourself that you suck every time you do something like this. And if you do trip up, you're going to have that voice coming in, criticizing you, telling you how terrible you are. You don't suck. Your voice is important. You are valuable. And we need to hear what you have to say, because everybody deserves to get on stage and present a message and feel good about doing it. And we shouldn't be able to be putting ourselves down. We shouldn't be putting ourselves down. We need to quiet that inner voice. So we do that by telling ourselves that we are worthwhile. We have a value. What we say is valuable and our message is valuable, and you do a good job. Reinforce your own self-worth because it's good for your soul, and you need to do it for your own self-esteem. So positive self-talk. Remind yourself it's okay. It doesn't matter if you stumble, if you lose your way a little bit. It's really not important. People expect you to be human, and you're not perfect, so they don't expect perfection. So you're on stage and you've lost your way. You've stumbled and you can't remember what comes next. I've been there before. It's terrifying. It happens. It still happens to me sometimes today. But what we do is learn ways to recover from the blank that happens to us. And what do? First of all, you will immediately panic when you can't remember what's coming next. And when you panic, you sort of forget to do one really important thing, and that is to breathe. You've got to breathe. Come on, it's really one of the most important things we do, that and pump blood around our bodies every day. So, pause for a moment, take a breath. Even you can make light of it. You can smile, owning the situation. You go, you know what, I've just lost my place. And the audience will chuckle, and then that will relax you a little bit. And then, we pause, take a brief moment to collect our thoughts. And often, the thought comes straight back to us, where we were. That's good. And if we own it, it'll make us feel better, give us a moment to recover. What happens then, if you've paused, you've owned it, and you still can't remember what comes next? Okay? Recap. Go back a couple of paces and say, right, what were we talking about? We were talking about, and get back in the groove. Repeating your last sentence or summarising the point you just made helps you to get back on track. And it buys time for your memory to be jogged. Because that's what, have you ever done that when you're talking to someone and you lose your thought? And you go, what was I talking about? And they go, you were talking about this. Oh, yeah. And you get back into the groove. That's what we need to do in this similar situation. But obviously the audience aren't talking, we're talking. So we go back, a couple of words, a sentence or two, and sort of try to get back into it. And if that doesn't help, and sometimes it doesn't help because, especially if we're getting really anxious, don't worry, don't panic. Then you have to rely on your notes. Never get on stage without notes. You don't need to have big sheets of A4 paper. You don't need to go and grab an iPad and start scrolling through it. What you need is just a few notes on cards in your back pocket. Pull them out and you can go through them. It's quite straightforward, quite simple with the little tricks. you just, oh, lost my way. Hold on a minute. There we go. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. Job done. And people won't even remember that brief moment in time. So don't panic, but you must have your notes on you. What else could you do? Maybe, let's say you forgot and left your notes at home. Big problem. Panic stations. Well, if you need to, go, okay, let's shift gears now and we're going to move on to the next section. Sometimes you might have to abandon what you can't remember, because there's nothing worse than you floundering around on stage. You look like a dead fish, trying to remember what it was that you said. And that's embarrassing for the audience. They feel uncomfortable if you're just not moving on. So if you have tried a few of these things, you've tried to pause and breathe, own it, recap and rewind. You can't check your notes because for some reason you didn't bring any, because you didn't follow Lawrence's advice. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you need to move on to the next point. Maybe it's time to, okay, we'll circle back around to this, but let's shift our focus on to this. And maybe that will be what you have to do. And it might come back to you later and you can maybe try to weave it back in. Okay, what else could you do? Take a sip of water. Again, this is all just delaying tactics to allow your mind to catch up and put you back on the path. Take a sip of water. And maybe engage with the audience. Take a moment for question and answers, or invite a show of hands, something like that. Again, just giving yourself time, because time is what your brain needs to figure it out. It's all in there, hopefully, if you've done the right amount of preparation. You just have to give it time. And one more thing you could do is have a backup plan, maybe a story or anecdote, something that you could fall back on, which might help. These recovery ideas could really help you to come back from this sort of blanking brain fog that you have. So the one big thing that you can do is to have your notes, to never go on stage without them. I mean, absolute worst case, have them on your phone, at least. It's not as great pulling out a phone. It's a bit more obvious when you pull it out. You have to unlock it, you have to find them, you have to scroll through. Rather than just pulling out notes, there we go, done. But have some way of recovering from this situation. And if you do that, then you to be honest, knowing that you have your notes in your back pocket is a way of calming the brain. It knows that you've got a backup plan. So that really is very relaxing to your brain and helps you to then not stress as much. The anxiety doesn't build up because the anxiety comes to a point and it goes, but I've got my notes. So what can we do then if we do forget? Don't forget to pause, breathe, smile, recap, check your notes, transition to another point, engage with your audience if you need to, reset if you have to. But do remember, please, the most important point of this video is that it happens to all of us. And if you grab my step-by-step guide to writing an outline, then you'll have your notes on you and they'll be brilliantly written, and it will help you to feel relaxed and calm and not anxious about blanking if it happens. I hope you enjoyed this video. Click the like button if you did, click subscribe so you get more videos like this. Share if you know somebody else who has blanked on stage and would like some help in how to recover if you do have this problem. And I will see you in the next video.